Namaste, everyone, and a very good evening to one and all of you. On behalf of AECD, I take great pleasure in welcoming each and every one of you for this very pertinent, informative, and important panel discussion on understanding the NEP and the National Curriculum Framework with emphasis on the foundational stage and its implication for early childhood educators. Before we begin the panel discussion, a brief about AECD. Some of you who joined us for the first time. We are very happy to inform the audience that we have attendees pan-India today, from Agra to Meerut to Srinagar to Adilabad in Telangana to Adityapur in Jharkhand to Salem, Tamil Nadu. We welcome each one of them for this panel discussion. So a very brief introduction about AECD and the activities that we do. Is the screen visible?
Yes.
A little bit about our story. AECD was established in the year 1964 to bring together professionals in the field of early childhood care and education. It was started at Lady Irwin College, Department of Child Development, in the presence of our first Prime Minister, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. AECD was formerly known as the Association for Preschool Education, and a lot of activities aimed at empowering individuals who are working towards the professional development of and also education of young children. AECD, which was IAP earlier, was actually doing a lot of work with NCERT, government functionaries, and eminent educationists. We were invited by the government to be on various committees related to child welfare, ICDS, Anganwadi, Balwadis. We were part of the Ram Joshi committee to review preschool education in the state, and also with the Brihan Mumbai Municipal new English medium schools. And in 2008, the IAP was dissolved and we got onto a new avatar, the AECD, which was registered under the Societies Registration Act 1860. And our mandate includes a right-based approach. We work with teachers, we work with parents, with children, and all the stakeholders in early childhood education. Our aim is to provide holistic child development in the 21st century. Now, we work with government functionaries. At the state level, we have provided recommendations to regulate ECC centers in Maharashtra. Also, we have been part of the committee that formed the regulatory guidelines for creche and daycare management services in Maharashtra. And at the national level, we were also a part of the nationwide group that gave feedback about the draft NEP. We have some very prominent leaders of AECD whom we are extremely proud about. Shri Gangar Sharan Sinha, known as Ganga Babu. We had Srimati Mrinalini Sarabhai, Dr. Ananda Lakshmi, Professor Amit Verma from Baroda, Mrs. Meena Swaminathan from Chennai, Professor Veena Mistry from Baroda, Professor Muralidharan from NCERT, Ms. Nalini Chugani, our guiding light, I must say, was always there for us, and Ms. Reni Tharapur from Pune. We have across the country representatives, and we had very eminent people who worked for early childhood education. We are housed at Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Department of Human Ecology, Devnar, Mumbai. That's where our national office is. And we focus on advocacy of national policies. We hold conferences and seminars. We acknowledge good practices. We have webinars for parents, and we network with related personnel in the field of ECD. And teacher resources are one thing that we really look forward to making and helping the teachers also develop, and also opening new branches across the country. So we have branches pan-India and which focus on consultancy, refresher courses, networking with organizations, and also professional development program where we conduct a lot of workshops, along with the Parent Connect, where we try to involve parent, who's the most important stakeholder in the early years, along with advocacy and information dissemination, which we focus on. We have an e-newsletter, and in a year, 2 e-newsletters are sent to all our members. We also invite each and every one of you who are doing some good practice to please connect with us, and you can share your practices so that it benefits everybody. An outreach program for parents. AECD is affiliated to Network for Information on Parenting, which is set up by Balamandir Research Foundation, Chennai. And the LTP calendar, a very pictorial one, is something that we are really proud of, and you can contact us for that in the email ID. So you could take screenshots of whatever you find it as important in the presentation also. And what is special this year, 22 and 23, we have been hosting spotlight webinars, which are highlighting exemplary practices of organizations from all over the country. In case you missed them, you can please look at our YouTube channel and you will see all the webinars there. They are such fantastic activities that happen across our country, and we've highlighted them. Some or rather many which we did not know, we brought to light because of these spotlight webinars. And this year we are focusing on a webinar on nurturing care framework on the whole child approach, as well as a webinar on climate change in ECD, which is going to be the next thing for each and every one of you. Coming to Mumbai activity, we do a lot of professional development workshops. We do workshops in Hindi with NGOs. We do workshops on learning strategies, on socio-emotional learning, having play corners, and specifically national education policy, the national curriculum framework for the foundational years. It's FS, sorry, there is a error. So, and other workshops is what we have planned this year. It would be online as well as offline. So do come and join us and be part of this fantastic process of helping young children learn and make their learning very, very meaningful. So these are the membership details. You can probably take a screenshot, and you can either become an institutional or an individual member for 1 year, 3 years, or 5 years. And you can contact us on these email IDs. Some of you are with us, we are known, and you can contact Ms. Purnima Contractor or Ms. Grishma Patil, and they will help you with any details that you require. So that is about AECD and the activities that we do. So coming to today's webinar, the National Education Policy 2020 was a path-breaking policy for all of us working with the foundational years. Not only have we gained the much needed recognition, I feel we have also received sufficient guidelines and guidance to make meaningful learning in this stage through the National Curriculum Framework 2022, which has come out. It is the first ever integrated curriculum framework, and what is interesting is that the NCF has come in immediately within a span of 2 years with the announcement of the National Education Policy in 2020. I want the audience to know that the NCF is a very well thought of framework, and it's a compilation of the collective work of various stakeholders. Actually, it's a little bit, I think it's interesting and important for all of us to know that a curriculum framework of this nature has come up, and we should be making use of it in our teaching life, basically. 10 lakh interested citizens, both students and parents, have worked for this. 1.3 lakh teachers and educationists, 1550 district level institutions have worked, 35 groups of institutions, 500 papers by 4,000 experts were reviewed, 25 specific papers on the early years was developed by 175 members of the NCERT. And that brings us to our eminent panel today. We have Dr. Romila Soni from the NCERT New Delhi, and we have Dr. Ankur Madan from Asim Premji University, Bengaluru. Both the organizations, the NCERT as well as Asim Premji Foundation, have played a pivotal role in the shaping up of this policy and the framework. Both our panelists bring to us the much needed expertise in this field, and we are very, very happy to have them with us. Before we begin, I have great pleasure in introducing both of them to you. Dr. Romila Soni is an associate professor with the Department of Elementary Education, NCERT. She's a strong crusader for the early years, extremely passionate about early childhood education. She's contributed immensely towards training and research, towards developing materials for all the stakeholders. She's authored 13 books in early childhood education for teachers and teacher educators. And my favorite book is that Early Childhood Education Program, which she has authored along with Dr. Vinita Kaul. So much of learning in each and every book that she has written. And she has to her credit a number of published articles and research papers. Welcome, Dr. Romila, and thank you so much for accepting our invitation to be with us today. Next, we have Dr. Ankur Madan. Dr. Ankur Madan is the professor and director at the School of Education, Asim Premji University, Bengaluru. She teaches courses and has research and writing interests in inclusive education as well as child development. She also anchors the diploma programs in inclusive education, learning disabilities, and early childhood education that is offered by her university. Her doctoral work and I think her passion lies in inclusive education. And she has previously taught at the University of Delhi and Christ University, Bangalore. Thank you, Dr. Ankur, for being with us today. Thank you, Romila, for being with us. And we're so happy and thrilled to have both these experts, who's going to deliberate about the national education policy. So we would like to start the discussion by requesting Ankur to share her thoughts on the NEP and the NCF related to the foundational years, so that we set a context to this discussion. May we begin with Ankur now?
Thank you very much, Vidya, for this very warm welcome and for having us here for this webinar. I think we're looking forward to a very fruitful and enriching discussion among not just the panelists, but also all the participants. What I will do is I will share my screen now and share a very, very brief presentation of the salient features of this National Curriculum Framework for Foundational Stage 2022 document that was released a couple of months ago, which essentially is going to just give us a very brief insight on overview of the essence of this document as to what this document is doing for us. And as you rightly pointed out earlier in your introduction, that it is indeed, we should consider it as a very important step in the direction of making early childhood education a very important aspect of school education and education in our country. And we should see it as a very important step in that direction. I'm assuming you can see my screen. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry. So as we all know that the National Curriculum Framework FS came as a step towards the execution and the implementation of the National Education Policy of 2020. And the National Curriculum Framework basically provides us with a set of principles and guidelines which will help us to really pave the way into implementing and execution of these very, very robust recommendations that the National Education Policy 2020 made towards implementing or having a very, very strong program of early childhood education in our country. And I think NCFFS is the first step in that direction. The NCFFS is going to be a document that will ultimately be integrated into the National Curriculum Framework of School Education, which is something that is likely to be released in a couple of months' time. So it will be an integrated document. But because, as you all know, that the NEP proposed that these stages, the structure of school education is now divided into four steps, that is the 5+3+3+4 formula. So the first of these, the foundational stage, is an integrated curriculum framework that gives us insight into what curriculum should look like for this foundational stage, that is 3 to 5 years of age. So what does the NCFFS do for us? Is that it helps us to develop diverse curricula in the country while enabling consonance and harmony across the country and providing a basis for quality and equity. I think it's very important to understand some of these, some of these concepts and ideas that the NCF is giving us. That is, one, it is trying to provide a very holistic and integrated and a harmonious sense of what ECE should look like in our country, as to how we should take care of our young children, how we should educate our very young children, while it also takes into consideration the fact that we have a very, very heterogeneous and diverse population, and therefore to say that only one kind of curriculum framework or only one curriculum will work in the country would be an unrealistic assumption. So what it essentially is trying to do is to pave the way as to the broad guidelines of a curricular framework for early childhood education, keeping or embracing the diversity and the differences across the country in mind. And it is, of course, the objective of the curriculum framework is to transform school education in India as is envisioned in NEP 2020, and bringing about curriculum which includes, of course, pedagogy, assessment, and other aspects. The essential characteristics of this NCF are that it has been developed in such a way that it is a very useful document that teachers and practitioners and in education can use directly. So it has been written in such a way, if those of you who have gone through this document would have seen that it is full of examples and illustrations and diagrams. So it has been developed in a way that it is very, very accessible and readable. And I think that is one huge strength of a curricular framework document that we probably have not seen so much in the past. What does it do? Of course, it lays down the vision for what school education should look like, particularly for the foundational stage, that is the 3 to 8 years age group. And what does it essentially provide? It provides principles, guidelines to bring about the imagination of what curriculum should look like for these early years. So it provides detailed guidelines such that we can improve the quality of education for this particular age group. There are lots and lots of salient features which I think will come through when we are, when we go into the question answer mode in this panel discussion. So I am just barely touching the surface of it and giving you in a very brief gist what some of those essential features are. Like I said before, it considers the foundational stage as an integrated stage in children's development, such that it proposes 5 years of flexible, multi-level play and activity-based learning for children in the age group of 3 to 8 years. And I think all of these terms are quite essential. When we say flexible, what do we mean? When we say multi-level, what do we mean? When we talk about play, activity-based learning, why and what is the essential meaning of that, and why have the 3 to 8 years been clubbed together? But I will not go into details. I'm sure a lot of that will be unpacked during our discussion. The NCF document is based on research from across the world. We have more than enough evidence, not just in the Western world, but I would like to believe that even in our country, that gives us a lot of confidence in making claims about the kind of curriculum that we need for children in the young age groups, right? So it is based on that research. It is based on lots and lots of evidence-based practices that we know are now successful for children. I think a very, very important point to be made in the NCF, and which is very clear to any reader who has gone through the document, is that while it is supported by research in other contexts as well as our own, it is also deeply rooted in our own traditions and ancient knowledge. And the acknowledgement of that in a curricular framework document, I think, is a very important step in the right direction. And we should appreciate that and also try and understand how that can be incorporated in our curriculum. And like I said earlier, it is a guide for teachers and other practitioners who are directly associated with schools and school systems and classrooms and children. So it is something that it's rather user-friendly. I would like to believe that everybody can use it. And of course, it looks at the holistic development of all children across different kinds of institutions that cater to this age group, whether it is schools or Anganwadis, Balbatikas, private preschools, low fee paying schools, high-end schools, etc. So I would like to say that it caters to the spectrum of institutions that cater to this particular age group. Very briefly, now again, I will not go into the details of it. What it is proposing is that the foundational stage is essentially from 0 to 8 years of the child's or of a person's human life, and should be seen on a continuum. So I think it's very important to understand and see that we see this age group on a continuum, where we are saying that the first 3 years of the life, first 3 years of a child's life should happen in a nurturing home environment. So, which means that the child's upbringing should happen in a nurturing home environment, where essentially the focus should be in the child's well-being through safety, health, security, yet also providing a very, very highly enriching and stimulating environment to the child for optimum development in different domains of development. And these domains of development obviously include the physical domain, the cognitive domain, the social and emotional domain. And it is believed that it is the parents at home who are best suited to provide this care in a nurturing home environment. The 3 to 6 years, when we make the shift from 0 to 3 to 3 to 6 years, which is the next stage, it is proposed that an institutional setting like an Anganwadi or preschool or Balwadi is perhaps a very, very strong, there is emphasis on sending children to an institutionalized environment like an Anganwadi or preschool, where again, the focus should be on the child's health, safety, and security, but also begin what is referred to as early childhood education through, again, flexible, multi-phased, play-based learning experiences, where the beginnings of, where the seeds are sown of what we now refer to as emergent literacy and numeracy, whereas the children begin to get exposed to the foundations of numeracy and literacy are laid, but it all happens in a play-based and experiential environment. This focus then shifts to the the last 2 years of this stage, that is a 7 to 8 years, where we are talking now about a formal institutional setting like a primary school. Again, it's important to remember that even though you are making this shift from a preschool to a different kind of institutional setting, which is a school, a far more formal school environment, you are still looking at these years as falling on a continuum. Here, you are now looking at still nurturing the child's curiosity, social interactions, empathy through formal teaching and helping the child acquire literacy, numeracy, and exposure to different kinds of arts and crafts, where the focus now begins on nurturing the child's curiosity and creativity in more formal ways. That is essentially the essence of what is being proposed in this document. The other important thing that I just want to take a minute to talk about is that from the foundational stage, the NEP 2020 proposes that we move to the preparatory stage, right? The preparatory stage, the next 3 years. But again, the emphasis is on the interconnections, the connections that happen from moving from the foundational stage to the preparatory stage. And here it is proposing that there should be a gradual shift of looking at curriculum for the child in this age from domains of development, the physical, social, cognitive domains of development. We make a shift of looking at curriculum through the domains of development or stages of development to the curricular areas in the form of school subjects. So that's a gradual shift that is being proposed by this NCF-FS. It is also saying that you make a gradual shift from what is referred to as inquiry-based, child-led pedagogical exploration to a more formal teacher-led learning environment. But that again should happen in a gentle manner, right? So that again, so the exploration, experiential, play-based activity can now become formalized into a learning environment that is teacher-led, but is also still gentle. It's a gentle transition that the child makes from this stage to the next. And similarly, in terms of providing cognitive experiences to the children, you move from the more immediate, concrete, sensorial experiences to more abstract ideas and concepts. So which is a very commonsensical approach to saying that when you start teaching children, you begin from what is immediately relatable to the child in its environment, and then move to concepts which are much more abstract and not necessarily known to the child from its previous exposure. And similarly, the same should apply to the assessment. So again, you move from an idea of assessment which is based in observation to making it more formalized, but still very closely related to the content and the pedagogy of what is being taught. And like I said earlier, that it is necessitating that there should be a continuum among these 4 stages of school education that the NEP has proposed. And lastly, I will take just 1 more minute to saying that what the NCFFS is saying is essentially about creating a supportive ecosystem, right? Where everybody is a stakeholder, and that essentially is about creating an appropriate learning environment, whether it is through infrastructure or building resources and teaching learning materials or pupil-teacher ratios, to also the roles that different functionaries play in this, whether it is the head teacher, whether it is the education functionaries and officers, or parents and community, and that everybody has a role to play. The NCFFS, like the NEP, pays a lot of attention to the teacher being central to the execution of any of this, right? So it talks about creating an enabling environment for teachers, where teachers' capacity building is focused upon, where teachers enjoy autonomy in their classroom and at the same time have some accountability and are given opportunities for progression and growth in their whatever stage of school education that they are involved in. And of course, it also talks about technology being an important enabler. And put together, all of this is likely to form this supportive ecosystem. I will stop sharing now. And this is essentially what I wanted to say in the beginning, just to set a context to this discussion. And I'm sure that we'll have lots and lots of questions that Vidya already has in place for us. And my co-panelist Romila is all set. And hopefully we will be able to respond to those questions as we go along. Thank you, Vidya.
Thank you, Ankur. Thank you so much. And I think you brought out so beautifully the policy, the framework, and how it emphasizes on being flexible, play-based, and kind of a direct outcome of the 5+3+3+4 curriculum and pedagogy, and use the importance of the continuum. I think you brought that out very well, and the connections to the preparatory stage, as well as creating a very supportive environment. I think this is all that we all need to know, and kind of integrating everything and the role of the teacher. You very beautifully said that, it's the teacher who's she's a pivot who's going to bring it all together. As you said, you spoke about the spectrum of institutions that we have, isn't it? So we have very diverse institutional settings in our country. We have an Anganwadi at one end, we have an elite preschool, we have international boards. We have, how are we actually going to reach out? How is this NEP 2020 going to reach out to the diversity that we have?
See, I think the National Education Policy as well as the NCFFS acknowledges this diversity, right? The
Yes.
policy has come from the ground. It is not something that has, been imposed upon us. So it is very well grounded and aware of the reality of the diversity in our country. What we should, appreciate is this, that both the policy and now the NCFS is essentially guiding us and giving us broad principles and frameworks that, irrespective of the kind of institution we are talking about, needs to embrace. It doesn't matter whether you are a well-resourced kind of an institution or a poorly resourced, whether you are rural or urban, which part of the country you are in or whatever. What it is essentially saying is that these are some frameworks, principles, aims of education or curricular goals that, irrespective of the kind of institution that you are, we now have to look towards. It's setting that ground for all of us to follow through. And that is what I think is the essential or the essence of both this policy and the NCFFS that we need to appreciate, right? It is also, when you read the document, you realize that it is also not saying that, this is the only way to do it, especially when it comes to learning outcomes or making. It emphasizes very much throughout the document that you have to make the experiences that you provide to the children relatable to their immediate environment and context. And that is the essence of anything that we do from here onwards. Very, very important. And that it does that, whether it's talking about the language of instruction, it does that, whether it's talking about setting up of learning environments or use of materials or, whatever poems that you take up and so on and so forth. So it's applying to every aspect of that. We should see it as a very important direction that is available for us to now follow, irrespective of the kind of constraints and the kind of institutions that we are. And we know, just the last thing that I want to say here is that we know that the early education space in our country has been essentially largely an unorganized space, right? So we don't even know what is essentially going on in this area in our country. But I think this framework is giving us that opportunity to now look at it in an integrated and holistic manner as to what are some basic principles that we all have to follow. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Thank you, Ankur, because I think it that really gives an answer to most of us, because if I'm a Balwadi teacher or if I'm teaching in an elite school, how am I going to do it? I think what you said makes a lot of sense to us, and also that it is doable. It is not something which is not. And we look at it, and as you rightly said, the learning outcomes is so beautifully charted out that you can look at it and try to develop activities for your group of children. I think that really feels nice that anybody, whether you're an Anganwadi teacher or an elite preschool teacher, you can definitely take up the principles, the guiding principles and the objectives of this framework. Thank you so much for that. This question is for Romila. We are hearing a lot about Nipun Bharat and Vidya Pravesh and Balvatika, where NCERT we know is playing a great role in developing guidelines to help the educator. So as a very important part of the NCERT, you've been doing this work to a great extent. Can you just tell us about what are the national initiatives so that the audience can understand it in correctly?
Yeah, thanks, Vidya, and good evening to all the dear viewers. Yeah, you rightly asked, like Government of India, Ministry of Education came up with a lot of initiatives. Like, first of all, it was Pade Bharat, Bade Bharat. That was the first scheme of Government of India, and where we did, like we have seen that after this scheme, Pade Bharat, Bade Bharat, that was launched in 2014. And then learning outcomes for each class was also developed. And then NEP 2020 came out, which emphasized on early childhood education, where early childhood education was given a lot of emphasis, and then it came formally, and everyone now came to know about, yes, now early childhood education is very, very important, and it needs to be given to all the schools, including the emphasis on FLN. Now, for FLN, Nipun Bharat, a mission document, came out in 2021. Now, what is this Nipun Bharat? Nipun Bharat was national initiative for proficiency in reading with understanding with numeracy. There is a need to bring this Nipun Bharat because it has been seen by National Achievement Survey by NCERT and a lot of research studies done in India, that significant percentage of our young children fail to reach basic level of reading achievement. And it was also seen that large number of young children grow up in India in a non-print environment with little or no access to contextual reading material. And this is the reason when we found that children are not doing well in reading and reading, writing, and numeracy. And this is the reason their National Achievement Survey is going down. This was the reason Nipun Bharat Mission document came out. And the purpose of the Nipun Bharat Mission document, that by the year 2026, every child, by the time the child reaches to, grade 3, will be literate and numerate. And this, we are talking about whole India. Private sector teachers might be wondering that, our children are doing this, but government schools are this much and private sector is this much. So we are talking about the whole India and how we are teaching. Even in Nipun Bharat document, all the learning outcomes and all the competencies, everything are matched with NCFFS. First of all, I just wanted to say here that teachers do not get confused that learning outcomes of Nipun Bharat are different and learning outcomes of NCFFS are different. No, both are same, only the structure of the language is a little bit different. Otherwise, the competencies are same and the LOs are same. So this is a lot of confusion which every school is asking me. So don't get confused and don't panic. And then the Vidya Pravesh guidelines. Vidya Pravesh guidelines is actually a school readiness guidelines. This is for specifically for those children who are coming directly to grade 1 without having any exposure of preschool, any exposure of readiness activity. They have never done any kind of a readiness activities. They have never been to any preschool and they come directly to grade 1. So this Vidya Pravesh guidelines is helping the grade 1 teacher and also the grade 1 parents, so that when the teacher will do these activities for the children who are coming directly to her, so that after 3 months, all the children of her class will be at par. And then she can execute her class 1 syllabus to all her children at once and in a similar pattern. Then there is a Balvatika module. This module is a treasure of activities to support Vidya Pravesh document. So you will get a lot of activities based on the Nipun Bharat document. But again, don't get confused. These activities are also aligned with all the 5 domains and 5 Panchakosh. Then NEP 2020 and the Government of India also talked about toy-based pedagogy. For the teachers and who are concerned in the area of early childhood education, who are passionate for young children, toy-based pedagogy is nothing new. But because early childhood education and FLN came with a bang for the first time formally in National Education Policy 2020, and this is the reason toy-based pedagogy also came, that with a vision that all the concepts and all the skills need to be mapped with the toys and games, specifically indigenous toys and games available in India. What you're supposed to do, you're supposed to map it with the toys and concepts and integrate it with FLN concepts also. So this is the initiative. And Samagra Shiksha, everybody knows those who are working in the government area, it is the Samagra Shiksha. It is education for all. It is the Government of India initiative. And now we know that it is NCFFS 2022. Yeah, Vidya.
Thank you. So beautifully, you brought out the whole thing, right from the disturbing statistics to the different national initiatives that are taken, mainly because we have a diversity in our children. So it's important to cater to different, and India is a land of villages, and there is a lot of rural children and children who need this kind of education. So bringing the holistic idea, when you just said, you spoke about the Panchakosha Vikas concept, when I went through the curriculum framework, I realized that it's such an interesting concept. It's very non-dichotomous approach to human development and, actually paving a way towards a holistic education. See, this ancient ideology may appear a bit abstract to few educators. They may wonder what this Panchakosha is and how is it related to early childhood education. So in simple terms, how does the NCF bring it about to the teacher who has to understand this Panchakosha Vikas? It's a beautiful concept. And since you've worked so much on it, we are waiting to hear that from you.
Yeah, Vidya, actually, it is a beautiful thing. And Panchakosha Vikas is mapped with the different domains. Let me begin with this statement. So the teachers don't get panicked that something new or something very difficult, like to understand. No, not at all. Panchakosh Vikas concept is mapped with the different domains, what you teachers are doing in the classroom. But yes, we as teachers and we as Indians must understand the Indian culture and Indian rootedness. So if we'll see, because Panchakosha Vikas is the basis of curricular goals as prescribed in NCFFS. First of all, if we'll see Annamay Kosh. So Annamay Kosh and Pranamay Kosh goes together. So Annamay Kosh is also termed as Sharirik Vikas in Hindi, and which you commonly understood as physical and motor development. So what are the factors and what is the emphasis given in NCFFS is growth under Annamay Kosh, flexibility in body, which we also used to call vigorness and, like flexibility, balance. Here the focus is because Annamay Kosh and Pranamay Kosh goes together. Each Panchakosh is interdependent on each other, like each domain is interrelated with each other. This is need to be understood. And Annamay Kosh believes in healthy well-being and strength and vigor. If you are not healthy, if you do not have a strength, you cannot focus on Vigyanmay Kosh, that is cognitive development and language development. So it needs good nutrition, good sleep, good daily gross fine motor exercises, which they refer as yoga or the child yoga exercises, that will extremely helpful in Pranamay Kosh, that is life energy. Because if you are not healthy physically, you cannot be healthy, emotional well-being also. So balanced body, enthusiasm. Now, what is Pranamay Kosh and how it is supporting Annamay Kosh is enthusiasm. And it's like the way we breathe, inhale and exhale are being given importance in Panchakosh. And positive energy, which is missing nowadays in our school curriculum. So positive energy, when we have this positive energy, there is a smooth functioning of all other systems like respiratory and other major systems of our body. So balanced body with balanced chit. I don't know what you call in English. They have focused in balanced body with balanced man and balanced chit. Means then you will be having a self-control and self-regulation, which now get connected with Manomay Kosh. So Manomay Kosh is social, emotional, and ethical development. So when you are healthy, emotional well-being, you have a balanced chit. And it includes positive learning habits, which is the sixth domain that NCFFS is talking about. So self-regulation, increased concentration, attention span, good habits. Now, how How the teachers are going to achieve this? Through music and movement, through child yoga, through visual performing arts. So you can see how it is related with Anandamaya Kosh, which we generally call creative and aesthetic appreciation. Then comes Vigyanmaya Kosh, that is cognitive and language development. Here, Vigyanmaya Kosh talks about connections with nature. Now, NCF-FS and NEP 2020 also focuses on connections with nature and awareness of nature, which our today's children are generally are not aware about. We are more into commercial things. So grasping skills, concept formation, reasoning, prediction. We need to, all the teachers who are, like listening, prediction and guessing skills need to be given importance. Only then your foundational numeracy will be strengthened. And then you will reach to Anandamaya Kosh. Anandamaya Kosh in NCF is given bliss. Like when you have done everything, then you have a bliss, you are happy. And when you have a self-control, you are at peace and you can concentrate on the task. So how you're going to achieve all these things? Only when you're doing activities for remaining Panchakosh and have concentration and peace and doing everything with the self-control. So this gives direction towards a more holistic education. And the main focus of Panchakosh is to build resilience, which is altogether missing in our early childhood or throughout the foundational stage program. So this is in short, because we have to do many more discussions. So this is in short. Yeah, Vidya.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think like how you say, health is a state of well-being, not just physical well-being, but mental, social, and emotional well-being. And I think our Indian values have been, this is not new. We've been saying this for right from the Vedantic period. So I think it's coming in so beautifully, synergized with today's education, bringing in a holistic perspective. And I think now we will not get scared of Panchakosha Vikas, because you very beautifully explained to us that what each means and how there is an interrelationship between the different development. Thank you so much for that clarity, because the interconnectedness and the activities only will contribute to the development of each aspect of development. I think that's very beautifully told. Thank you so much, Romila, for this. Yeah. Now, this question is for Ankur. The NCF has spelled out a very predominant use of mother tongue or home language or a familiar language, or language L1 is what it is referred to in the framework, as the medium of instruction. So now this has caused a lot of panic amongst the teachers, especially the urban teachers. Now, how are we going to teach in the home language? So all the time when there is an NEP related discussion, this is the question that keeps coming. How are we going to handle this? So can you help us to understand the implications of the familiar language being used as the language of instruction, basically?
Yeah, so Vidya, I agree that this is something that is almost seeming like one woolly problem that nobody seems to have an answer to. I think if we step back, it is important to first understand the relevance and significance of something like this, that as to why, this has been proposed and has been emphasized so much. There's an entire chapter dedicated to the use of home language in the NCF-FS. It's important to understand that now we have, like I mentioned earlier, that there is a lot of research and evidence that is available now, which conforms to this idea that it is, if children are exposed initially to learning in institutional settings through the language that they are most familiar with, it is much, much easier to sow the seeds of learning and cognitive development in them. And I think that is where this comes from, because the moment children go to from the unfamiliar to the unfamiliar, that is from the home setting to an institutional setting, and there we expose them to a language which is not familiar to them, it creates not just a completely cognitive dissonance, a situation of cognitive dissonance in them, but also impacts them socially and emotionally, right? Because if they are not in an environment where there is a language being spoken that they do not understand, it creates a feeling of, being unsafe and insecure, which will impede their learning. So that is one of the reasons that when they are exposed to a language that is familiar, that the teacher, the peers, everybody in the environment is able to, at the first basic level, communicate with them, it has created this wall of safety and security around them, which then sets the foundation for their learning. That is the first thing. The second thing is there is also that, again, evidence that shows that, if you are exposed to learning through your home language, it is much easier to acquire other languages for literacy later, right? So if you are taught the emergent literacy, as we were referring to earlier, if that happens in your home language, your familiar language, then it is much easier for you to acquire other language. And we know that in our country, most children are at least bilingual or even multilingual. Most children are exposed to multiple languages. But having said all this, emphasizing on the importance and the rationale for why the NCFFS or the NEP has emphasized this, I do acknowledge that this is not going to be easy. All right, it is not going to be easy because particularly perhaps in rural settings, one can say, are a little more homogeneous, but clearly urban settings are not. We have people coming from all, different kinds of dialects and languages being spoken. Teachers come from a completely different environment. So how do you bring all of this together? I think while I acknowledge the fact that it is not such an easy thing, if you read the NCFFS carefully, it also admits that this is not going to be an easy thing, but it also proposes at the same time that what one should try and do is that help children transition carefully by seeking support of all different kinds of stakeholders, which means, first of all, you acknowledge that the child has come with a language into the school environment, which is not necessarily the medium of instruction, right? So that is first thing, that you acknowledge that and you accept that, and you allow children to express themselves at least in whatever language that they are comfortable with. It also says clearly that at that point of time, teachers, school administration, parents, and community have to come together to help build this understanding of languages. It is not, obviously, it would be unrealistic to expect that every teacher would be able to speak 10 different languages and would be able to follow everything that every child is saying. But that is where this creating a safe ecosystem and creating a conducive ecosystem really comes from, where parents, the community, the school, the teachers all work together to at least pick up some functional language for that the children are speaking, such that the children can be supported to make that transition, and children are allowed to express themselves in that. And of course, I think that now we are at a stage in our country as far as early childhood education is concerned, where we really need to educate parents and whoever else, even I think school administrators, that this focus on English, as the aspirational language for learning, as a medium of instruction, where children come to school and from day one, they are admonished if they are not trying to speak in English. I think we really need to get out of that frame of mind now. We have to do that. We have to educate the society. We have to educate parents. We have to educate ourselves and believe that, what is the value of learning in one's familiar language, the L1 as the document refers to, and help children transit into that while acknowledging that it's not that simple. I know that it is not that simple, and I see no harm in making that, seeing that as something that we acknowledge, but at the same time, understanding the value of that and helping to navigate and finding contextually relevant solutions to that. I think that is how I would like to respond. Happy to hear your thoughts and Ramala's thoughts as well.
As you're speaking, what came to my mind was how our parents, at least our parents, studied in the home language or in the mother tongue to maybe till grade 6 or something, and then switched over to English, and they were very successful in their careers, can read and write in English, which is what parents want of today from the beginning. So it is, I think it's mainly because they were able to understand what they were learning in school, because it was in the home language. And as you rightly said, so much of research supports this. And the best takeaway is for all teachers not to panic and not to feel that English has to be the, you know, the aspirational language. As you very rightly use the right word, it's aspirational language. And I think people think we all need to be very good at that. But learning through the mother tongue definitely has its own advantages, and learning is so meaningful when you understand what you're learning. So I think you brought that out very well. Thank you so much. And I want to tell the viewers that, you know, the YouTube viewers also, a lot of the questions have been answered. For example, Vikas Sharma Education was asking about the three-dimensional development. I think in the Panchakosha, Vikas, Dr. Romila explained that very well. And also the different, what do you say, whether it is different backgrounds in ECC or whether a child without an ECC background, what happens through the national initiatives. I think all that has been explained. So I'm just seeing the YouTube chats where they have told, and a lot of questions are being answered. Thank you so much, Romila, as well as Ankur. Now this question is for Romila, where when you read the framework, an entire section has been dedicated to building positive relationships between teachers, children, and the community, which just now Ankur also reiterated, saying it can happen only when everybody works together. So what are the key aspects for this kind of a synergy? If Romila can just explain to us.
Yeah, Vidya, you rightly said that section on emotion, like positive relationships, because we also see that for building positive relationships, first of all, we need an emotionally supportive, positive classroom. So for this, we need to set clear objectives, like where NCFFS is also talking about encourage two-way communications. It's not that only the teacher is talking. So it is two-way communications where knowing each child individually, listening to each child, and even when listening to each child, like, because I started my career as a teacher, so I know it very well, like you have to bend to the child's level and then talk to the child. It's not that you're standing and then, like looking at the child and talking. So not talking with the child, this is talking to the child. So encourage two-way communication. That is what NCF is talking about. And provide a lot of activity areas and observe children, how they are talking to each other and interacting with each other. And that will define indirectly the classroom behavior. And target on child-teacher expectations and promote respect for everyone. So this is basically emotionally supportive, positive classrooms. Then when you divide the children in different areas, the purpose is that observe how the children are talking, observe how the children are interacting with the materials. Only then you will be able to connect with each child, know their moods and feelings. Knowing children's moods and feelings is very important to build a positive relationships. Now, the third very important thing is modeling pro-social behavior. So modeling pro-social behavior is where teacher is modeling a pro-social and a correct behavior, because children learn by imitation. First of all, setting an environment, then modeling pro-social behavior. You can also develop pro-social skills, checklist and rubrics, which is generally missing in the schools and the classrooms. And then modeling literate and numerate behavior. Researching together on any concept or project. For example, come on children, let's know about the plants. Let's pick up a twig and talk about this twig. How many leaves are there? And then bringing those leaves and sorting the leaves into big and small, then drawing those leaves. So researching on any project together. So it will bring experiential learning also. It will bring thematic projects also, and it will bring the inquiry-based project also. Many times teachers feel, I will suggest that do take the best of each approach. Take the best of thematic approach, take the best of inquiry-based approach, take the best of experiential learning, and have your own balanced approach. And then you will see how the children enjoy. Then it is provoking thinking skill. For example, asking questions. If I'll ask question right now, and let me see how many viewers drop down in the chat box. So if I'll say, tell me 3 fruits that has only 1 seed. I hope you're dropping down your answers in the YouTube chat. So provoking thinking skills, focus on 3 things. Tell me 3 things that you wear on your head. Asking and answering questions. We as a teachers believe in only asking questions. That classroom is the best classroom, and that classroom has the best positive relationships which give freedom to the children to ask questions. In short, that classroom is the best classroom that has freedom to ask why. Why this happened? So posing what and how, posing questions, freedom to the children to become explorers, investigators, problem solvers, and discoverers. And then you will see that they're able to sit on the abstract worksheets and try to bring a balance between child-initiated and teacher-led activities. Stories and retelling the stories. Why only teacher tell a story? Like encourage children to retell the story. And NCFF has also focused on age-appropriate values. Honesty, telling truth is a big, big value, which our little children do not understand. So can you think about an age-appropriate value? Kindness, friendship. So think about these stories. We have collection of Indian story, songs, poems, and playful conversations happening in the interest area. So your assessment is also going side by side, and your self-assessment is possible there. Your peer assessment is possible there, and give children a self-chosen or choice time. So this is what positive relationships make happen in the classroom.
Thank you so much, because you've that balanced approach was beautiful, where you as a teacher choose what you want to, whether you like experiential learning, whether you believe that your children work well with inquiry based, and giving the children the freedom of expression. I think that will lead to children participating, asking questions, posing different types of questions. And I love that you said that research together. Then the children understand teacher is also in the learning process. She's also with us. I think very beautifully told, and it's just not a fancy thing that has come up in the framework which talks about positive relationships. I think you've broken it down into the activities which are doable. I'm sure our audience understand that, okay, how their rhymes and stories and everything is going to come in place, and they're not doing something. It's not that they're hearing anything different. Thank you so much. It was such a that was a very balanced approach from your end to make us understand. That was really very beautiful. Now this question is for Ankur, where now that Romila spoke about different types of experiences that you give the children, we know that we have to contextualize these experiences. Only then meaningful learning will happen. But as we just discussed, there is too much of that English, as you rightly said, that medium of education to be English, especially in the urban setup. How can we bring about an education which is local, Indian, and multilingual also? Like, how do we do that? How can teachers be capable of doing this? If you can just throw some light on that.
See, I think that, like I said earlier, what we need to embrace now is this diversity and see it as being a strength rather than a constraint for our education system, right? This is what it is. It is the core, it is the nature of who we are as a country, and we need to embrace it. And we know that children learn best when their experiences are taken from their immediate environment, right? Especially when they are very young, right? What is at the core of what they will understand has to be the content, and everything has to come from that which is experiential for them, that which they are familiar with, and then help them move from the, the familiar to the unfamiliar, the concrete to the abstract. Hence, building on this knowledge and building on this premise, you need to create what are called multicultural learning environments, right? And that is the only way to be. And I don't really think that that is a matter of a very big intellectual debate or anything like that. I think it is a matter of building sensitivity and sensibility, a cultural sensibility in who you are and where you come from, right? So essentially, all you need to do is become aware of that cultural environment, the ecosystem that the school, that children are part of, and open your doors to that, to learning from that. So whether it is bringing rhymes from the immediate environment, whether it is talking about food that is local to that particular environment, whether it is talking about local games, teaching learning materials, toys, or songs, or dance, or celebrating festivals, that is all that is needed. That is all that is needed. And like I said, that for teachers, it may be, not all teachers are familiar with that social context as much. Therefore, opening your doors to parents. So getting parents to come into the school, occasionally to talk to children, doing grandparents' day and bringing grandmothers and grandfathers into the Anganwadi to talk to the children, to talk to the teachers, and learning about that. The teacher uses words which have that, a familiarity to the children, or uses games, brings in materials into the classroom which come from the immediate ecosystem or the social environment of the children. I think that is the most essential part of this, and that is all that is needed to create this environment.
I think we lost you for some time.
Yeah, I'm here now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Is there a part that you'd like me to repeat?
Just last. I think 10.
So I'm just saying that, that is the kind of sensibility that you need to bring into your day-to-day interactions, because those are experiential. They relate to children's immediate environment, and that is all that is needed. And you don't have to do it alone. It is not the teachers. It is not on the teacher to do it alone. Teachers are not, supermen and superwomen. They also need support, and that support is provided by this collaboration, this ecosystem that surrounds us. Education is not an isolated activity. It is a social activity, and everyone needs to participate in it. Building that sensibility is the most important part of it. And I really think that this is actually the easier part. I think there are bigger challenges. This is the easier part. Yeah. You just have to be sensitive. That's all.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think both you and Romila mirroring the same thoughts, and that the environment and the ecosystem needs to work. It's just not the teacher alone. The onus often goes to the teacher and makes her responsible for everything. I think, as you beautifully said, a sensibility is what we all need to develop. And we are a land of diversity. So this should definitely not be difficult for us. And I think the more the will is there, I'm sure we'll all be able to do. I would like to tell the panelists there's a lot of appreciation on the YouTube, and people are acknowledging your thoughts, and they have found out a lot of things that they can use it in their classroom also. So a lot of their questions have been answered in such a manner. I think we'll just have one or two to ask, but remaining, they're all very happy with the kind of answers that they're getting from you. Thank you so much, both of you, for that. Now, the question is, Romila, you spoke about the toy-based learning initiatives. So can you just tell us a little bit briefly about that?
Yeah, toy-based pedagogy is again, given a lot of emphasis by NEP 2020. In short, if we say that in early childhood education, it is nothing new. But yes, the newness in the sense that now the teachers have to see, if I'll say it in a very short and a crisp way, make a list of the toys, all the schools and all the teachers, make a list of the indigenous toys and whatever is available, like the state wise, like every state has a treasure and of local toys. So make a list of the toys and the games. Now here, point to be noted that toy doesn't mean a rattle or a junjuna. Okay. So toy means which you can, toy or a game which you can use to teach any concept or skill. So make a list of the toys, and next column, write down what are the concepts and skills you can match and you can do with that particular toy or a game, right? And then what are the activities you can do it with that particular toy, match with the concept. So this is called mapping of concepts with the toys. And then variations in doing this activity. For example, if your theme is myself, me and myself and my family. So what could be the toys and games you can use in the classroom? For example, dolls and accessories. Can you think about big and small dolls? Seriation, biggest doll, small doll, and smallest doll. And then bringing also the doctor kit here. So drama and dramatization is also there. If a plant theme is there, can you think about a gardening kit? So I'm just giving you a sample, but you can do a lot of things with the toy-based pedagogy. And integrate FLN. This is what NEP and NCFFS is focusing on. Integrate foundational literacy and numeracy with your toy-based pedagogy, so that children learn about literacy and numeracy without any stress, with the help of toys and games. This is what TBP is meant for.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm sure now all our teachers in their own dollhouses, in their own classrooms, using the toys, will make it like, will relate it to foundational literacy and numeracy, also getting a lot of cognitive skills coming very well along with development of all these things can happen. Thank you so much. So it's not something that we need to worry about. Now, I want to ask Nupur, the NCFFS talks about a 5-step learning process, Panchadi. What is this all about?
Yeah, so Panchadi, as the name suggests, is a learning process which has 5 steps in it. The 5 steps are Aditi, that is introduction, which is when you are introducing a new topic, you try and first relate it to the prior knowledge. So how do you introduce the topic? The first thing to do is what we were talking about earlier, right? You make it contextual, you make it relatable, you make it concrete, emerging from what the child already knows. So the first is, it's called Aditi. That is, you ask questions, you introduce materials. It's a good start point to begin talking to children, right? So that's Aditi. The second is Bodh. Bodh, that is the second step. That is the where you really, what is the conceptual understanding? What is the concept that you actually want to teach the child? So here you bring in inquiry-based learning, you bring in play, you curate experiences for the children. For example, I could start by giving an example. For example, in Aditi, when you're introducing a topic, you start by telling a story, right? And then you find a concept, say you're teaching a concept of shapes, right? And you tell them the story of the crane and the fox, where the crane is made to eat food through a long stem vessel, and similarly the crane has to eat from a plate. So something like that, where you direct the children's attention to what you really want them to look at, right? So it's telling a story is one thing, but you try and ask questions, you curate the experience of the child around that. When you actually do the conceptual and understanding in Bodh, there you may give them flashcards of the shape, where the children are then asked to identify, to sort and say that, okay, can you identify a certain kind of shape, where you don't even have to worry about whether the child is able to identify the circle or the triangle or a square or whatever, but just the fact that they are sorting. And you have to have your learning outcomes clear as to what is it that you want them to learn from this. The third stage is abhyas, that is the practice, right? Now that the concept has been introduced, now you need to repeatedly tell the children, now you want them to practice that knowledge in different ways, right? So you can create group work around it, and you give them many objects and say, now see if you can match that particular object. So if, say, circle is the shape that you have introduced, so you want to give them bindis and roti and this or that, or bangle and things like that, and say, okay, now can you find among all of these something like which is similar to the shape that you have learned, right? The next is prayog, that is application. So now the knowledge that has been gained, has been practiced, needs to be applied.
Right.
So applied again can happen through, your surroundings, the real world, or what you're part of. You can also give children the homework and say that, okay, now go home and look for objects that are similar to this and bring them to the class, or write them, or ask, not write at that stage, but find out what they are, right? And remember them. And the last stage is prasar. Prasar is expansion. Expansion is where now you relate this acquired knowledge with something new, right? So now you expand your knowledge, you now try and perhaps think of where you can apply this to a new area of knowledge. So it could be through a new song that you may want to introduce at this stage, or a new poem that you want to introduce, or a new story that you want to tell, where also the concept of shapes has come through. So this is it's a good guide to create a teaching plan around any concept that the teacher wants to teach. That is what Panchadi essentially means. It's a 5-step, and it can be applied at any stage, based on the curricular goals and the learning outcomes, the competences and the learning outcomes that you wish to create for the child.
So beautifully said. We look at Bloom's taxonomy, and we think about
Yes.
but this is a very simple method
It's
that you've told.
simplified, yes.
Simplified
it is exactly
learning
that,
process.
but it's a much simpler
one, which the teachers can actually put it into
Yes.
practice and also achieve the final goals also. Like how you had in the beginning, you had spoken about learning to be holistic and all that. So I think through these learning steps, I think we can achieve that. Thank you so much. It was like, when you just read Panchadi, you wonder what it is, but then you put it down in a very simple manner.
It's quite simple, yeah.
Yes. And I think teachers do it. So now they will be happy that they're doing something that that is there in the National Curriculum Framework.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure that they are all doing it already.
Yeah. Romila, I'm sure people have asked you 100 times about FLN, about what is, what are the effective learning strategies. So, but we also would like to know when it comes to foundational literacy and numeracy, can you just tell us very briefly some effective reading and writing strategies? Because at the end of the day, we have to achieve that, and it's very crucial. So some ideas on that.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, we talk about for the reading, writing, and numeracy, one of the strongest thing is creating a print-rich and numeracy-rich environment. And the balanced literacy approach, you can quickly see, and viewers can take a snapshot also. This is 4-block approach, what NCF-FS is talking about. So I'm not going in detail about this, but I just want to show you how you can create a print-rich and numeracy-rich environment. So let's go further, and like you can create materials like picture reading posters, like you can see on the screen, a literacy rich environment. Now, when we talk about literacy rich environment, you can create a reading area, a writing area, a speaking area where you can give child friendly mic to the child, and a little raised platform to the child where the child can talk anything about that. This will also shed the inhibitions in children and create independent activities. And many times, like teachers get afraid of how to create a literacy rich environment. If you can see this reading area, you just put one mattress and few cushions and label it with the my reading area, keep graded storybooks, magnetic and textured letters in your reading area, and labeling everything is very, very important. So label your literacy area, like whatever equipments you have in the classroom. Now, what are the reading strategies? I will say picture reading posters, which NCERT is also coming out with. The one example, you can see a picture reading poster on the park scene. You can create such kind of picture reading posters on different topics, contextual, whatever you are talking about. This is beautiful for oral expressions. And believe me, no reading is possible if you're not giving children opportunities for oral expression, because oral expression is leading to reading and writing. So create such posters on different themes and scenario. Now, how to use it? First of all, quickly, I'll say what you are looking at the picture, what this child is doing. So labeling picture, you can see also each and every display, and labeling is very important. Talk about the picture reading poster, what this child is talking to that particular child, and that anticipatory question. For example, we have recently done a picture reading poster where 3 children are in the swing. Now, how you can integrate mathematics in that? You can ask, if one child will get off from the swing, what do you think? How many will be left on the swing? So this is how you integrate mathematics. So, and also like giving a question, exploring. While coming from school on the way, what are the things, where do you see numerals? That is called math talk. So I'm bringing mathematics also in literacy, so that we'll not miss the numeracy thing. Where do you see numerals? So the child see numerals on the bus numbers, on the house numbers, speedometers. The child learn this vocabulary also. So signing in attendance sheets, that is very, very important. Instead of you taking the attendance, create an attendance chart and create a logo for each child and ask children to sign it or a mark making. This is for the writing strategy. And gradually you will see that letters and words start emerging from that attendance chart, and this will help you in assessment also. So, and why to create and talk about A for apple or B for ball? Let children create their own alphabet, DIY books, and number code the areas. If you'll see, labeling and number code the areas. This is a reading area. Depending upon the space constraints in the classrooms, you can see there is written 3 people and 3 children's line drawings are drawn there, and 3 number is also there. So the child, as a child, I can understand only 3 people can go there. This is called self-regulation, matching with the punch coach. So even if a 4th child want to enter, the child knows that no, 3 children are already there, so I cannot go there. When that particular child goes to another area, then this particular child will go. If we have more pictures, we can show it to the viewers how to label and number code the area. So this is my dolls area, and only 2 children are allowed there. So this is how labeling and literacy rich environment and creating a DIY books, attendance charts. So such kind of things will also attract the reluctant readers and reluctant writers. So begin teaching letters from children's own names. So this is a few ideas for reading and writing.
We should have one session only on that with you, I think, so that there are suggestions that we need toy-based learning. We need more session on FLN and all that. I think we should do that. Purnima ma'am can make a note of it, because there's so much scope. Teachers are very enthusiastic to learn. And I think you've taken it very beautifully. From labeling doesn't mean just writing a door or a window or a display board, to relating self-regulation, which you said, that's a very nice concept. And emergent reading and writing, children will learn how to they just visually they are able to find out what it means. And I think all that is beginning of reading and writing. Very nicely told. Even a simple doll corner, very sweetly you showed that picture where just only 2 people can work. I think these are ideas which our teachers will definitely take home. That's fantastic. We are running short of time. Maybe we'll take There are questions on assessment also, and even I wanted to ask you, but maybe one question from Ankur, if you can just tell us about, we're talking about normal children, but what is the framework talking for children with special education needs, developmental delays, or how do you plan an IEP? What do you do?
So I think the commitment that the NEP shows and then the NCFFS shows towards catering to individual learning needs of children is rather strong, which essentially means that we should treat each child as an individual and ensure that our learning or our capability to teach them or to work with them extends to each and every child in the classroom. So that commitment to inclusion is quite strong, and we must respect that in every way. Essentially, what it translates to in terms of practice is that, see, we need to first of all understand that an early childhood education space, particularly an institutional space in ECE, is a very, very, very important space to identify children who show or who are at risk of developing developmental delays or developmental disabilities. So the teacher's role, or the Anganwadi teacher's role, or whoever is working with the children in helping, raise these red flags, in helping parents identify that there may be something that you need to become aware of, is a very, very important one. So the awareness of the teacher is important. She's not a clinician. She's not a pediatrician. She's not a psychologist. And that expectation is not there. So she's not expected to label or anything. But because when she works with so many children, she's the one who has a fairly good idea when she finds that there is something, where this child is showing a delay and which she needs to address and alert parents to. And once that happens, once that early identification happens, then we know that there is a lot of value in early identification and therefore early intervention. The earlier you provide intervention, the children benefit from it more and more. It also means that when you do have children, all right, when you do have children who show developmental delays or disabilities in your class, it does not mean that we try and eject them out of the system. Okay, we have to retain every child in our classroom. That is a commitment that we have shown, not through just NEP, but prior to that in all our policy documents also, which means we have to learn to adapt and work and accommodate the learning needs of all the children. IEP, which is an individual education plan, is one way of doing it. But in my view, more than the IEP, it is the idea of differentiated instruction that we need to embrace, and also to understand that when you, one, become aware of the children in your classroom and you learn to work with them, you are not just adapting your curriculum to benefit that child, but every other child. It depends on what you are doing. We should not assume that there is only one child whose needs I'm catering to. I could be catering to every child's needs. And differentiation, the essence of inclusion and the essence of differentiation lies in that, where I adopt methods based on the learning need of the child and try to cater them, essentially using multi-sensorial approaches, essentially taking lots and lots of, using different ways of reaching out to children. We don't have so much time, but essentially it comes from there. The IEPs are created in consultation with parents, with psychologists, with therapists, etc., and which basically is just a way of achieving learning, creating learning outcomes which are specific to that particular child and trying to meet them through tangible, short-sighted goals. That is what an IEP does. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. If there are YouTube participants also who asked this question on assessment. So assessment has been given a lot of importance in the framework. So Romila, if you can just tell us what's the novelty in the assessment? Like how is the policy and the framework looking at assessment? Is there anything new? I read something about
HPC.
this holistic, yes, HPC.
Yeah. So 360-degree assessment that NEP 2020 also talks about. And if teachers, if you are confused about 360-degree, and if you think it is a very, very high term, you know your fan. The fan also runs in 360-degree. So 360-degree basically is, we'll come to 360-degree, but if you can see on the screen, it is on the go and inbuilt assessment in the well-designed classroom. This is why I keep on saying that teachers, please develop interest areas, zone out your classroom into interest area. If your classroom is small, that even then you can have temporary interest area, because it makes assessment very easy and there is no stress. If you'll see the previous slide, on the go assessment, you need to develop checklist for each concept. You can develop observation schedule, simple rubrics, like we may talk about rubrics in our future workshops for each of the competencies, which will help you to report in HPC, because this is what NCFFS is also talking about. And keep all this in children's portfolio. And then when you'll keep this in the children's portfolio, interpret the work and assessment, write and report in the simple language in HPC. Now, HPC is a multi-dimensional report card, which caters to all the Panchakosh and all the 5 domains. So it is a multi-dimensional report card. Now, if you'll see what is 360-degree and how you will develop a report card, like preferably, there has to be 3 terms in the report card instead of 2 terms. Because when you do a 2 term, it will become very difficult to see the damage. And you cannot arrest the damage. So, but when you give the 3 terms in your report card, it becomes very easy to see how your children are progressing, where and identify the gaps, modify your own pedagogical practices, improve upon, and then give it for each child. If you then assessment is, you will see whole group assessment, small group assessment, and individual assessment. Now, how you will do? Take 2 children every day instead of looking on, because you cannot observe and assess the whole
entire class.
Yeah, entire class. So although you are looking at the entire class, but your focus is on the 2 children in all the domains, how these 2 children are working in different locations, working in different areas, inside and outside. And then it will become very easy for you to report your HPC. And then develop, these are the interest areas. This is one of the model preschool of NCERT, and becomes very easy for the teacher to observe and assess how the children are working in these interest areas. So self-assessment, develop some of the self-assessment cards or ideas, simple, with the help of emojis, and put it in each term. So self-assessment, peer assessment, teacher assessment, and then when you'll give this report card to the parents, every term the parents will give you very simple feedback, and then you finally see how your assessment is moving. This is called 360-degree assessment. And HPC means all the domains, all the Panchakosha in all the 3 terms. And for the viewers, I just wanted to say that you can also observe Nishtha and Diksha platform of ministry, Nishtha FLN 3.0. You will get an idea of how you can register yourself also, and a certificate will be generated. So this will be an added thing, for your professional development. So assessment is not difficult, but just keep in mind that assessment is a part of your pedagogical practices, and not a test which you will do at the end. So these are certain examples of developmentally appropriate assessment strategies. You can click, you can take a snapshot of it, and you can see what you are doing, what you are not doing, and what you can add in your classroom processes and in your assessment strategies. And this is a sample checklist. If you can quickly have a look and also can take a screenshot of it. This is a sample checklist for observing children's social communication. So that's it. I think sufficient for today's assessment ideas.
There's an interesting question from Anand Krishnaswamy, who's saying that what if both the children don't do nothing noteworthy on that designated day, but demonstrate something remarkable on other days? So
that's we generally find, like in their classrooms. This is what we call, we need to see the children's temperament and children's moods. And only then, it is not that, suppose I am a child as a Romila and I don't want to do anything today. So this is where the teacher's role is very important. Why the child is not enjoying or working in any of the interest area, what has happened, is there something bothering the child? So there, like you need to observe that particular child for a 1 week. Only then, but you yourself has said that if next day the child
is doing.
So this
is teacher's observation. Again, it goes back to what you just said. So the teacher's observation is very important. It's not just one day, but then over a period of time and using simple rubrics. I think you explained that well, and it should not be focused on doing a test, as you rightly said, not taking a test and performing in a test, but it should be holistic and looking at the child as an individual and how the child performs over a period of time. I think that is also there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. There is a question asking about different boards are there. How are we going to integrate this? So the syllabus designing and content selection will have to be uniform, contextual and clear. But the question someone has asked in YouTube about how are we going to do this?
Now we can see that NCFFS is in front of all of us. So teachers need to develop their own early childhood or foundational stage curriculum depending on the child's needs, interest, and context. Now, you have asked about the boards. I think I've already answered in one of the questions now. Very soon, the government managed schools, they will be getting a notification from the government side through circulars. So, and then the schools have to follow that. Now, what we have in front of us is National Curricular Framework. Now, based on this framework, schools can develop their own curriculum, their program, but you have to follow these learning outcomes. Whatever activities you are doing, whatever concept mapping you are doing has to be done in such a way that it is aligned with the learning outcomes as prescribed in NCFFS. Here, I just wanted to add one thing that you will find there are many number of LOs. So teachers are getting a panic, like how can I administer so many LOs? But when you see these learning outcomes, many LOs are more or less the similar. So you just find out from those chunk of learning outcomes, because when we say that each Panchkosh and each domain is interdependent, you will find that these LOs are also in these different domains and are interdependent. So you just find out and take what LOs are there for each domain and map your activities and pedagogical practices. And just to ensure that no child will left behind, because Nipun Bharat target is this, that by the time the children reach grade 3, every child will be literate and numerate of India. So I think, as I said, the government managed schools will be getting a notification very soon from the government through a circular. But LOs, yes, we all have to follow the learning outcomes.
I think you've also told us about now the implementation plan, as you keep telling that the NCF itself is a rollout of the policy, And along with that, now what you said about the schools getting a circular and each of us trying our bit, how we interpret the curriculum framework and apply it in our classrooms is one thing. There's one question about teacher preparation. I think that's something really important, because at the end of the day, the teacher needs to be competent enough to take this out. So what is your take on the teacher preparation? If one of you can just answer that.
Ankur, would you like to take that question?
Yeah, so I'll just briefly respond to it. I think one of the biggest, actually, if you were to ask me what is the big challenge in effective implementation of the NCFFS and the NEP, I would say that one of the biggest impediments currently is this teacher preparation, that we seem to be not adequately prepared in that area. Right? I think we have to, I mean, the NCFFS and NEP both have proposed steps in that direction, where NCT is now trying to come up with a ITEP program, which should be a 4-year program that prepares teachers in the foundational stage. But having said that, I do think that those are very long-term solutions and they will take some time, right? That is the way to go for sure. But unfortunately, our ecosystem in our country has not really, been adequately been able to cater to preparing teachers in very organized, structured, formal, good quality programs as far as this particular stage is concerned. And that is where we need to really focus all our energy in now. And that is where we need to put attention to. And for that, I think the SCRTs and of course the NCRT have to have a very important role to play. I also think that higher educational institutions, universities, teacher education programs can really play an important part, working with not just at the pre-service level, but also at the in-service level. We need to equip our teachers to think that, this particular stage, the early childhood years stage, is where anybody can teach and it is anybody's baby. I think is something that we need to dispel. That is a belief that we need to come out of and take some very, very strong initiatives in this direction. That's the only way to do this. Otherwise, we are not. But there are some good programs that are now running. We are also trying to contribute to that by offering a 1-year diploma in ECE. And I think that is the only way, that we will be able to build capacity. But assuming that this is an area in which we need to very aggressively push forward and put effort in is, I think, very important.
Yeah, since I come from that space, I really, I understand what you're saying. The onus is on the teacher training institutions to bring in quality teachers. So your training should have all that. So I think we have to keep that in mind.
Add over here that very soon, Nishtha, like NCRT has already done Nishtha FLN 3.0 and Nishtha ECCE 4.0, and very soon by the month of August or September we will be having Nishtha NCFFS.
Okay.
So every teachers can register in Diksha portal and can have certificate also for that. So
thank you. That was also one of the questions by one of the YouTube viewers. Thank you for that, Romila. I think that's answered. There is this observation from Maya Gaitonde who says the focus is on 3 to 6 and center school education, but for the below 3 years, the learning is left to the parents. So 75% of the brain development is before 3. And she also wants to know, what about creches and parent education? I think that was answered by you all when you repeatedly said that it has to be a community-based approach. And, so do you want to say something on that? What about creches and parent education?
Well, again, parent education has also been given emphasis even in all the Nishtha programs, in all the capacity building program. And we have also developed materials, like in the form of a Jadui Pitara, where one of the stakeholder is also parent. So we are also helping parent and the community to buy the materials, to get the materials, like we kept in the Jadui Pitara, and it is also uploaded in a digital form. So anyone can, and you can see this teaching learning resources, which you can see on the screen. This Unmukh is a trainer's handbook for Balvatika. It is also a teacher's handbook, and it is about 300 pages, and it is a bank of activities. This is an implementation plan of NCFFS.
How does one access this?
Sorry?
How do we access these materials?
Yeah, it is being just launched, and very soon it will be there, available in CIT or the Nishtha website, NCRT website. So digital upload will also be there, and a priced publication will also be there in NCRT. And the middle book, you can see Anand. So Anand is given in two ways. Anand loose worksheets for the Balvatika is given in a folder, and only exemplar worksheets are given, thematic worksheets are given. Then there is Anand activity book for Balvatika, and it is not a prescribed textbook, teachers. So don't think that this is a prescribed textbook. This is for the Balvatika, that is for upper kindergarten, that is for 5 to 6 years of age. All the worksheets are just exemplar. Teachers can create their own. And the beauty of this Anand worksheets and the Anand activity book, that we have given dotted lines which the teachers and the children can cut it using a child-friendly scissor and keep it in the portfolio. And there is no sequence of these worksheets. Whichever the children want to do, first they can do it. And all the Anand worksheets are being aligned with the competencies and the curricular goals and the learning outcomes as prescribed in NCFFS. Now, the third book is Firki Bachon Ki, which is being brought out by Department of Elementary Education, NCERT. And this is a children's literature or a children's magazine, which is meant for foundational stage up till the preparatory stage. And the beauty of this children's magazine is the children write for this magazine, and no teacher write for this. All the poems written by the children, all the illustrations done by the children, and few of the illustrations are done by the local artists of different states, which we generally forget, like from Madhubani, like from Karnataka, from Rajasthan. So to bring the India culture and rootedness in all our books. So this is one of the way we are, and this is, you can see the learning teaching material, Jadui Pitara, which was launched by Minister of Education, Honorable Dharmender Pradhan ji. And this implementation, this is a part of implementation activity plan. This we call a wonder box, having lots of play materials. But again, there is no prescribed material. We are just giving a sample of material, and teachers keep on adding to this. This is what we have just done, exhibited in G20 Summit in exhibition. But again, I'll say, the teachers who are concerned and working in the area of early childhood education, this is nothing new. But yes, we found that many of the states and many of the teachers yet don't know about what kind of a materials and what kind of a comprehensive early childhood education kit can be developed. So this is an idea that how you can create your own wonder box, keeping in mind inclusion and comprehensiveness of all the 5 domains. Yeah, Vidya.
Yeah, thank you so much. I honestly feel like I've read the curriculum framework with both of you speaking so beautifully about the framework and telling so many actionable points. I think as teachers, we are worried what we'll do. Such a big policies come. How can we take it to our classrooms? But both of you have made it so simple, so actionable, and there's a lot of positivity and there's a lot of hope in what both of you are saying. And also the fact that there are so many governmental initiatives which are happening. NCERT is working in such a big manner to bring this out to each and every one of us. I think all this is very reassuring, and we are very happy that we have learned so much. There's been both YouTube as well as the Zoom chats are full of praises and full of comments, which is, people are very happy. The participants are extremely satisfied with what they've heard, and I'm sure they have this invigorated feeling today of having heard from two experts who have brought to us not only the reality but also what we need to do as teachers. The onus now lies on us, and I think everybody will take it ahead in a very positive and forthcoming manner. My last question would be one last thought on the success of NEP 2020 and NCF 2023 from both of you.
So, Vidya, I think that we are living in a time now, we are going through this stage where our education is in our country, where we should be very fortunate to be associated with early childhood education, because the kind of impetus that the NEP has given and the NCF FS has given to early childhood education has not been seen for many years, even though we've had a policy in recent years and so on and so forth. So I think we should be very optimistic about the success of this. Of course, there will be roadblocks, there are impediments, there are challenges in executing it, but embracing the essence and the spirit of this document and the provisions and the principles is what will ensure its success. We should not worry about, that whether out of those 100 learning outcomes, we were able to fulfill only 35 or 40 of them. But I think it is important to embrace it in spirit and appreciate the rationale and the thought and the effort that has gone into it. And I think from there is only success looking ahead and going ahead. And that's all I would like to say. And thank you very much for this opportunity. It was absolutely wonderful being on this panel, interacting with you and Romila. I learned a lot today. Thank you very much. I'm very grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Romila?
Yeah, as a NCERT representative, I will say definitely align the learning outcomes with every activity and include TBP, that is toy-based pedagogy, and you will see positive results with happy children. Secondly, weave foundational literacy and numeracy in your daily schedule, right from arrival of the children in your classroom and till goodbye circle. Without children knowing about it, that you are doing assessment of their activities. And lastly, bring humor in your pedagogical practices, which NEP 2020 actually emphasizes that without humor, children cannot learn. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It is we've understood that everything that is spelled out in the curriculum framework is so interrelated, be it the Ila Panchadi or be it the Panchakosha Vikas, be it emergent literacy or be it FLNN strategies. I think everything is together. We all have to work together as a community, as teachers, as parents, and everybody recognizes that responsibility of that particular stakeholder. I think it's so beautiful that both of you explained lots and lots of appreciation, the simplicity with which you have spoken and explained. Many of them are saying so many concepts and so many confusions have been cleared today. Thank you so much for this wonderful contribution in making, this panel discussion so very meaningful, and also making us all understand what the NEP says, what the curriculum framework says. And I think we're very grateful to both of you, Ankur and Dr. Romila Soni, today for being here despite your busy schedule. We know how busy you were and how we were trying to contact you. It's not for the sake of saying busy schedule, but we really know that you both are busy. But yet you've taken time for us at AECD. And I must thank all the attendees today, both on Zoom as well as on YouTube, for being here and listening and also asking such wonderful questions. And hopefully most of the questions we were able to cover. A few which were not covered, we will send it to the experts, and we will respond to you based on the questions that you ask. Lot of gratitude to each and every one of you for being here to make this panel discussion extremely meaningful. That's what we have to say from AECD. And a special thanks to Grishma, our admin executive, for bringing us all together, for being like a rock support for us. And she's so cool. And she says, don't worry, we can go ahead with that. Thank you, Grishma, for that. And thank you all the members also of AECD who've been so passionate about the early years and wanting to bring this across to people. Once again, a lot of gratitude to each and every one of you, especially the speakers, Romila and Ankur. Thank you, participants, for being here, because without you, nothing is possible. And we wish each and every one of you a great evening and more learning experiences. We will call the same experts and more experts so that we can all learn from each other, and have a nice evening. Thank you and namaste.
Thank you, Vidya. You were a fantastic moderator, I must say. Thank you very much, and good evening, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Wonderful session, Romila and Ankur ma'am. Brilliant. It was really, really so simply put. All my students